This is James. He will be giving a talking leaf today entitled Finding the Question.
That was part of what?
Take it away, James.
Hi, my name is James. This is my talking leaves presentation titled Finding the Questions. Okay, so my intellectual experience happened in humanities class on March 28th, 10:55 a.m. with my teacher Ian Chang. During our trial of Augustus Caesar, we were debating whether or not Augustus brought a golden age to Rome. We never came to a conclusion in that trial. And at that moment, I came to a realization. My realization was that a question at face value can appear straightforward, but it is important to delve deeper and explore the question before finding an answer. Now, how did I come to this realization? So, at the start, did Augustus Caesar bring a golden age to Rome? This was the trial topic, but we were unable to answer it until we defined every aspect of the question. We had to figure out why we weren't able to answer that question, which led us to define a golden age. So you, Ozzy, how do you define a golden age?
Something that brings peace and prosperity to an area or a country or a nation.
You disagree with what's your definition?
Well, I think that he was almost there, but then you also have to have, there needs to be creativity and trade. That's the key right there, trade.
But he defined it as happiness.
Yeah, it needs to be
And Alex, how do you define a golden age?
I guess a society thriving and kind of not like just pretty much advancing their knowledge, their economics, the politics, pretty much everything of a society becoming better and improving at a good rate, you could say.
Okay. See, everyone has a different definition of golden age. This is exactly what happened in the trial, and it's what led us to not being able to come to a consensus. It doesn't matter that we didn't finish the trial because I learned a valuable lesson. Now I break down the question so that I understand all aspects of the question and make sure the conclusion I come to is well informed of these aspects. I had this discovery, but it didn't just happen one time. I found myself thinking the same thing about not taking a question at face value, but this time it was in the second trial. The question at face value for the second trial was this: Did Caesar Augustus better represent the people than the republic he replaced? But I already learned not to look at a question at face value. I learned to delve deeper and find a bigger question. Can a dictatorship better represent the people than a republic? And how can one man decide what's best for so many people? These are the questions that we actually spent our time debating. I realized that this question not only applies to ancient Rome, but also to modern day. This is a timeless question exploring the relationship between humanity and government. Take the United States. Unlike Rome, we are not a republic. We are a democracy. However, in our democracy, voters must ask themselves a similar question each time an election rolls around. The similar question is about the relationship between humanity and government. In our country, founding principle is the idea of equality. In the Declaration of Independence, it says all men are created equal, and we all have inalienable rights, which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. My point is that the United States voters choose a candidate that they believe will best represent the country, hoping that this one person will decide what's best for so many people. This is the same question we were asking ourselves about Augustus Caesar. How could one man represent so many people better than a republic? This is also an essential question in math. So, this is another valuable lesson that I learned. The more I explored these questions, and the more discoveries and connections I was able to make. I found that this was happening in other classes too, and could be applied in other subjects, like my conceptual physics class. Every day, we were asked a question which we were asked to answer in our journal. If I viewed each of these questions at face value and focused only on each question given on that day, then I would fail to see that they connect to one another and help in understanding of more complicated concepts. During the beginning of the year, we were asked about Faraday's law of induction, which is a basic law of electromagnetism predicting how a magnetic field will interact with an electric circuit to produce an electromotive force. Later, we were asked about transformers. Transformers transfer energy between circuits using Faraday's law of induction. If we apply these questions to daily life, I can make connections between Faraday's law of induction and transformers to understand how almost all electronic devices, phone chargers, laptops, TVs, function in my everyday life. Also, these concepts are used in power plants to harness energy from various sources to generate electricity, which is another essential question from science. Science requires you to think critically and make connections between questions. You cannot isolate each question and focus on them individually. Eventually, you must look at the bigger picture. When I think about all the valuable lessons that came from this intellectual experience, I realized that I was learning about the steps necessary to solve the problem. Which is yet another essential question: what steps are necessary for me to solve a problem? And this is the overarching theme of my presentation. And this is what I learned about how to solve a problem. Number one, I need to understand all aspects of the question. For example, it was necessary for me to clearly define who Augustus Caesar was and what a golden age was before we could even attempt to answer the question. Number two, I realized it's necessary to look at the bigger picture. For example, in the second trial, we realized we were being asked a much bigger question about the relationship between humanity and government. And number three, I realized how important it is to make connections and apply these connections to everyday life, just like I did in conceptual physics. Once I do all these things, I'm equipped to solve a problem in an intelligent and informed way. Here's my works cited. Any questions?
James, thank you for your presentation. I'm so glad you recognize the importance of delving deeper to answer the question behind the question. I was wondering if you would go ahead and do that for us. What is the definition of a golden age?
Okay.
Did Augustus lead Rome through one? Did he represent the people better than?
Like I said,
The
we never
Republic.
came to a conclusion.
How does a transformer relate to our everyday experience with electronics?
Okay. So as I said, we didn't come to a conclusion during that trial, but from my team's perspective, the definition of a golden age was an expansion of land, so conquest, less or more peace within the city, so taking away the Civil War or the Pax Romana, and an expansion of trade.
So those are the things that you felt were important for a golden age?
Yeah.
Land, peace, and trade.
I believe that they thought the other team thought the golden age was defined by an expansion of culture like architecture and literature. Is that correct? Yeah. And what was your other question again?
Your other question, which was how does a republic and a democracy relate? Or actually, I guess it was did Augustus represent the people better than the Senate did?
We believe that a republic represented it better than Augustus. It was a very long debate, much longer than it should have gone on, according to Ian. But our reasoning behind that was mainly the republic represented the poor more by having what do they call it? Plebeians. It was a form of the Senate that was for the lower class, and it was elected. The people in that in the Senate there were elected by the lower class, which Augustus did not do. Augustus continued, but was not instated by him, and he also rigged elections and did a bunch of shifty stuff.